Okay, my name is Scott Dysart. I work at the Linguistic Institute in Pipe University in Chiang Mai, Thailand. These past few days, I've been working on some brochures, and I thought I would share some of the things I've learned. I should acknowledge freely that I'm not a graphic designer by temperament or by profession. I'm just making some simple things, and I've learned a little bit more about Inkscape, and I thought I would share it. If this strikes your fancy, there's a wealth of resources that you can use on YouTube or inside Inkscape itself to show you how to learn more. I will post those links to the end of this YouTube. Again, I don't pretend to know everything about it, but I'm showing what I've learned. So this is the website for Inkscape. You can come here, you can download what you need. You can look for, learn some tutorials, books, manuals, some examples of what can be made. It's really a good tool. So I'm going to get this out of the way. And in my example now, so one of the things I want to demonstrate is how to make a simple brochure, and I'm going to cut these videos along the way as I go. So in the first thing I want to do is, so the first thing you need to know about Inkscape is it works in the idea of layers. You can stack things up. So if you get a more complicated thing, you can have layers behind it that can add color or depth to the picture. And then if you want to edit something in the background, you can move to that layer, and you can move things out of the way by making the layer visible, invisible, just so to kind of help you work it out. Nothing that I have ever created requires more than 2 or 3 layers. And seriously, I could probably get away with no layers just because I'm not making anything complicated. So the first thing I wanted to show you is something I learned just a few minutes ago. Is in my example here of a brochure for the Linguistic Institute, I have several pictures that I might use or might not use, but they don't match the size of the document. So just demonstrate on my document, it is File, Document Properties, and bring it over here. Of course, this always goes to the wrong page. My document set, because I'm comfortable with what 6x4 is a 4x6, 6 wide, 4 inches high, a postcard size. Really, I do a lot of postcards with this thing, a postcard size documents, or you can make it A4 legal. But this document is 4x6 or 6x4, depending on how you orient it. Okay, so now that we've seen the properties of the document, you come back, and this what this box is. This box represents my page, or my landscape, my canvas rather. And this, I'm going to delete this to show you how I've brought. Okay, so now that I've set my my document size, you can see I've got one layer here. I've called it background, and you can see that this is the canvas that I'm working with. I can zoom in, zoom out, and I'm going to bring in a few pictures. I've got a couple pictures I'm working with. I'm just going to see what they look like. We'll bring this one over first. This, I'm going to import it. I'm just dragging it in, dropping. This is the Linguistic Institute. You can see right now that I have a problem. If I want this to fill the whole page, which I do, so I can either unclick this box, and then I can kind of force it. I can do something like this. I can do something like this. And then I can do something like this, which would be very, very ugly, and you don't want to do that. So I'm going to edit, undo all this, undo scale, undo scale, undo scale. Actually, I'm just going to be a lot easier if I just delete it and bring it back over. Okay, so I'm going to lock this because I want to keep it, and I'm going to, but I don't want all of this picture. I just want part of it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to scale it up bigger than my page, and I'm going to drag it up here out of the way because you can work outside the box. Pardon the pun. And I just recently learned today that you can create a square or a shape. I'm going to make it the size of my page. And I'm going to drag it over my picture. And now I can size my picture a little bit better to where at least some part of it's the same, like the height or the width. And I can move this sideways. Let's say I want that part to be in the picture. Now, if I click both, so now both the text box, the box, and the background picture are selected. I can go to Object, Clip, Set. Now, so now it's trimmed my picture to be the size I want, and I can drag it here, and it has properly filled in my box. And that's an easy way I've just discovered today on how to cut pictures and fit them in the page, especially if you want a background, like what I do here. Okay, so now I have what I'm going to view as my background image for my brochure, postcard, big picture, or something I want to share with people. I'm going to add more layers. So I'm going to click the plus button. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call this QR code. And you'll see why. And I want to put it above the current. The current is the highlight one is the background. I'm going to put it above current. So now, if I highlight, so now I have two layers. I can make this visible, invisible. See the eye open, eye close. That's kind of cool. But now the current is the QR code. All right, so I'm going to take a pause, and I'm going to show you how to make a QR code for a website, because in my example, I have a brochure of the Linguistic Institute. I want people to see it. I want people to see a QR code. They take their phone, show the QR code, and then they can go to the website. So I'm going to pull up Edge, and this is going to be our new Linguistic Institute website. I can right click over here, and you can see create QR code for this page. Click on it, and I click download, and it's going to go to my downloads, and that's this thing right here. And of course it comes over here. So that's the QR code for the LI site, or it is for now anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the QR code over, go to import, and now I have this QR code that's huge. And to demonstrate that's in the QR code layer, I just open, close the eyeball, open, close the eyeball. So now I'm working on layers. So I can now resize this wherever I want it. I'm going to click on, I'm going to go back to QR code layer, click. And of course, it's not working right. QR code, I want. Because it was unlocked. The lock matters. I've locked the background so I can't make any mistakes, which is important because I make dumb mistakes from time to time, or more often than not. Now I'm going to click my QR code, and I can resize it. And it's important to have this, the scaling locked, so you can have a nice square. I don't think the phone cares, but it's important. So I'm going to make it maybe this size, and I can drag it to a spot that's not problematic. Let's put it right here for now. Okay. And so that is how I can add a QR code. So I demonstrated it within Edge or Chrome. You can right click on the website, download it, it'll click the create QR code and download it, and you can bring it over and you can put it in on the page. Okay, so now I've got my background picture. I've got my QR code pointing to the website. Now I want to add some text. To that, I'm going to add two more layers. First, I'm going to add a text box layer. And so again, it's above current. Click add. And now I'm going to add my text box. I go over here to square. And I'm just going to drag. Now, Inkscape seems to remember the fill that you've last used. So at some point in the recent past, I must have added a red, but I want to change the red background to something else. I'm going to click on, go up to Object, Fill and Stroke. Come on. Okay, I must not have had it selected. So now I clicked on Fill and Stroke, and these are the colors, red, green, blue, various strokes, and I can change the color by just picking in here and finding scale I like. You can do the pluses or minuses depending upon preference. I'm going to go something. This is where I tell people my Crayola box growing up only had 8 colors. I really don't care too much, except for I can tell that that's not very good. I'm going to find a gray. You can click some options. That's more to my liking. Let's show you some of these options here. Different ways of picking color. I'm going to go with the gray. So that's my layer. I can then close this box, click the little mouse, yes, and I can drag this back and forth, up and down, and I can bring it here. I can move it. It has a kind of a snap thing right there. I can bring it down here if I want. Depends upon your preference. So now, but I'm going to put it in the corner. Actually, for now, I'm going to put it in the corner. Now I'm going to go ahead and lock that. I'm going to add text, create a new layer. I'm actually going to call this text. And again, I'm just doing this way. You can have had the text inside the text box layer if you want. And I'm going to come over here to create and edit text and type Linguistic Institute. And I want to change the font or change the font size, Control A. Let's make this something funny. And then I can bring it, put it over here in the corner. I can bring it around and say I want to have this a little bit bigger. Actually, I'm going to add another text. PIAP University. If I spell it correctly. Actually, partnership between PIAP University and SIL International. Obviously, you can tell that that text is not a good size. Double click, select all, Control A, change the font down to something like 14. And I can then get the mouse. And now I can either bring the text to it's completely in the box, or I can come back, I can lock the text, come back to text box layer, grab the text box and drag it over. And then I can unselect the text, then I can move this one over, something to that effect. And then I can also change the font size. I can change font size. I can change color of font if I want to, but you get the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and lock these again. Okay, so I'm about done with my basic example here, but I realized I didn't have the LI logo added, and I want to include that. So I've gone and downloaded it. It's out with my collection of parts that I want for this example. So I'm going to come back over here, and I think rather than make a new layer, I'm just going to come down to QR code, make it the active, and I'm going to drag it over. Okay. And now I can drag it. Come on. I have to unlock it, sorry. I can now drag it, and I can make it as big or small. Again, I can make it as opaque as I want, or if I can decide if I want all my elements over stacked on top of each other, I can drag it over, or I can put it down here. It really is up to you. Okay, let's say you've added all the elements and you've looked at it and you realize that you want your text box down at the bottom. So you can move them part by part, like you can grab the text box and drag it, but that leaves your text up there and that's really hard to see. We'll undo that. What you can do is you can now unlock both text and text box, highlight all the elements. I've selected right now the text box and both bits of text, so everything is collected, and now I can move it all together. So that's how you can move you can move parts around as you want. And then I can come back to, I can lock those, come back to QR code layer, which is where my logo is. I can highlight it and I can move it over here. Then I can lock it again. Okay, so let's say that I have a document that I like, that I'm happy with. I should have saved along the way. Someone forgot to tell the IT guy to save. So I'm going to save as LI brochure. So now I have my SVG file saved. I can now file export PNG. It brings up this export PNG. I'm going to get rid of the attributes thing. I can tell it where I want to save it. I can export as Inkscape. I'm going to save it as LI brochure example. Save, give it a name, LI brochure 1. And then I just click export. And now it's saved as, and this is the PNG file that I've just created. All right, so let's say I want to take it to a local print shop. Out in town, the print shop we most often go to really prefers having things in PDF form. So I can do that with Inkscape. File, save as, and I'm going to go to my location of my files. I'm actually working in the downloads. Quick access, downloads, LI brochure example, PDF right here, portable document format, save, okay. And now, here's my document. It's in, this is a 4x6 or 6x4. I could take it and they'll print it. Okay, I can close that. Okay, I thought I would take a real quick minute to show you an example of a brochure or a piece that I just created. This is really, really simple. It just has one layer. You can see it has text. It has images, has the QR codes that are all one layer. I can move them around if I wanted to. There's no background. It's just really, really simple. So these things do not need to be complex. They can be as complex as you like, or they can be as simple. Okay, this is another thing I created in Inkscape. This is a real simple background that I used in Zoom. It's just an image with the text. You're going to view layers. You can see it just has, again, it just has one layer. I could have had two if I wanted, but just one. It doesn't need to be showing that doesn't need to be all that complex. That's really all I wanted to show with Inkscape. That's pretty much all I know about Inkscape, other than you can do view and you can show page grids. That helps sometimes. But yeah, this is something I found handy as I'm making brochures for upcoming trip. And I thought, as I'm working on it, it's top of mind, I thought I would share it with you all, partly because I thought you might find it interesting, but also because I might want to remember sometime later on.